All right, bows and bow ties. I still have a little bit going on with my back, so I may be doing this standing up shortly. I just want to talk about a few things. I don't think this is going to take long. This is a thumbnail that you should have selected to get in, learn from your mistakes. Okay. Um, I probably should have put learn from my mistakes. Hmm. Anyway, I'm the Black opinionated woman, also known as B.O.W. For those of you who are new to my channel, okay, I'm gonna have to take a step back because my back is hurting. All right, so look, hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm standing in my situation. I have only 3 points I want to make today. The first thing I want to talk about is I should have had more female friendships. Now, I recognize that I am probably coming from a different point of view because I'm prior military. So most of the people that were in my circle were men. And when I separated from the military, I entered into my career field, which is what I was trained for. Well, not the exact thing I was trained for, but into engineering, which is also male dominated. Okay. So most of my relationships were, were around a lot of men. Where am I going to go with this? I had female friendships, okay? My female friendships in the past, though, I felt like I had a bad picker. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. I went to college it was predominantly white male. I mean, of course, I had black friends there. I went to college and it was male dominated. So I had male friends there. And what happened was, when I had female friendships outside of when I was in high school, right? I found that I had a bad picker. I had some bad experiences. Much of it was rooted in what I know now to be as colorism. There was a lot of that went on. Um, there were some very hurtful things that were done, and it made me very gun shy with trusting a lot of women. So when I had my female friendships, I was always wary of someone. Sorry, my back is killing me. Of someone. Sorry. I was always leery that someone was going to try to harm me in some way. And actually, my experiences were well, it actually wound up coming true. So I don't know if I was manifesting it. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Oh, my back is killing me. But anyway, what happened was I do wish I would have cultivated more female friendships in my 20s. I say this because as I was coming through as a woman, I was maturing as a woman. And yes, I had female friendships. But I think if I had cultivated that cadre of relationships, let me get closer and lean down for a second. If I had cultivated that cadre of relationships much sooner, I think I would have come through my 20s differently, right? I think I would have probably had a better understanding of how to handle loneliness as a woman or how to come through a breakup, right? I mean, like I said, I've come through a lot of things, but I didn't really cherish many of my female friendships until I got older. And I still don't keep a whole lot of female friendships because look, we've all come through things. Even recently, as a 2 3 years ago, I've dealt with some stuff and I had to cut someone off. So actually a few people off. So anyway, yes, I do wish if I could turn back the hand of times, and I try not to have any regrets, is that I would have spent more time cultivating my female friendships. And yes, like I said, I had female friendships, but I also was highly selective, as we should be, right? Of who I would allow in my space, only because the people who were hurting me so much were people my friendships, so to speak, especially black women. Very, very hurtful. All right, we're gonna move on past that. You got to move on. You can't like stay in a bad space, right? I think in my 20s, one of the things that I made the mistake of doing, like I said, I am a product of my environment, was I felt like I always had to prove something. Yeah. Um, I felt as if I had to prove I was just as good. I dealt with it in college. I dealt with it in the military. I dealt with it um, in my career, which is actually going to be tied into my third one, which I should have just said two things, but I felt like I always had something to prove, um, which I think was rooted in a little bit of insecurity. Because let me just say this, men are affirmed in the military and they are affirmed in career fields such as engineering. Let me give you a story real quick. And this is going to tie into the third one. The third one is, let me just, okay, hold on. The third one was, I always wanted to be validated intellectually. It's crazy, right? Think about it. Most of us want to be validated for our physical attributes, for our beauty, for all those things. And of course, I wanted those things, but those weren't high on my list because once I got to I want to say about 22, 23, I was already getting that affirmation and I didn't even know how to handle it at first, right? But that wasn't what I was seeking. I wanted the intellectual validation. I wanted to be proven. I wanted to prove that my competency. And I'll give you some stories, but sorry, my back. I remember well, it's not the first one, but this is the one I'm going to say. When I was in college, I started as a physics major. At the end of my freshman year, I was selected along with um, PhD students to go to China to study intense terahertz lasers. Don't ask me what it is, because back then when I read the abstract, I didn't even understand this abstract. Now, these were PhD candidates, and here I am as a freshman. I'm like, what? So one freshman was always selected every year. And I wasn't there long. I had to come back because I had a family emergency. But I was selected to go to China to study intense terahertz lasers. And for the time period that I was there, I was mostly just learning in country stuff. I didn't even get into the other stuff. Um, I realized I didn't want to do that. You would think that that would be a validation of enough. No. I swapped over into engineering because I realized I didn't want to like study the sciences, right? I wanted to apply the sciences. I wanted to create something. I wanted to solve problems. So I swapped over to engineering. And I remember my degree was in materials engineering. And I thought it was just really difficult. Okay. There were some classes I did well in, and some classes I was like, get me out of here. But I remember I was in this one class and we had to do this, like, I forgot what it was called. It was a lab. And we were doing all of our studying and understanding tensile strength and all this other stuff. The professor comes in, drops like this box of Q-tips. Just drops a box of Q-tips on this lab table. And I forgot what other supplies that you can use for binding, but maybe tape or something, I don't know. And then we had this competition who can create the correct, structure to handle the most pressure, pounds per square inch, and some other stuff, right? And so we had to design the structure and see who can use the least amount, or at least use the least amount of Q-tips, or take the most amount of whatever it is. But it's going to be pounds per square inch. And I was feeling really like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. I was suffering from what do you call that? There's what's that syndrome called? It'll hit me in a second. Imposter syndrome. I'm like, I got to get out of these engineering programs. He dropped all these Q-tips on the table, and I was like, I cannot do this. Everyone was coming up with what structure they were going to build together, because in order to do that, you had to be halfway decent at all the chemical stuff, right? And I was like, I can't do this. And I put no effort into it. I took 3 Q-tips. I can't even make this shiggity up. I took 3 Q-tips, and the way I put it together and taped them together, everything, bent it down, everything. And then, we ran the experiment. And at the end, I wound up getting second place. The person who got first place was my partner. And I was like, that was the first time I had to be like self-validating because I'm like, you didn't even try. You just slapped that together. It was almost like penicillin, like you figured it out by accident, right? Where I'm going with that was because I was constantly around all these great minds. There was no other Black person, male or female, in my major, at least not for my graduating year. And I felt alone. They say a lot of times Black people feel alone in IT, right? So in my 20s, the mistakes I made was I was constantly trying to prove something. But I'm like, wait a second, you have the same degree everybody else has. You are here. I was looking for validation intellectually. It was intellectually and professionally. That was my albatross. That's what I had to carry as a burden, right? It wasn't me trying to, I don't know, like the other physical stuff. I cared so much to be, I wanted to be valued and validated and affirmed as an engineer, as an intellectual, as all these things. That was my insecurity. About a decade ago, I was invited to speak on a panel for, it was in Cozy. Now, what I do now is in systems engineering and architecture. And in Cozy is International Council on Systems Engineering. I wound up getting my certification and blah, blah, blah. And I remember I was sitting on, it was like a sub panel. It was called WISE, WISE, Women in Systems Engineering. I met someone who wound up being kind of like a big sister as a Black woman. There's not many systems engineers. And I remember I spoke on the panel, did all this stuff, and she was so cool. She pulled me aside. It's a Black woman, actually. Very few Black women that you're going to see in these positions. And she said to me, you're, you know, we were working on some other thing. And she said to me, you don't have to prove anything. I was like, what? She was like, you're pushing too hard. So I can see your insecurity. You don't have to prove anything. We know that you can probably run circles around all these other people, but you don't have to prove anything. But at the time, I felt like I had to. She was like, no, you don't. You don't. You're here. You're accomplished like everybody else. You know your job. You know how to do this, that, and the other. I'm like, they're not taking me seriously. I'm like, she's like, it doesn't matter how hard you push. They're either going to take you seriously or they're not. But all you can do is what you can do. I mean, within reason. But anyway, I would just say this for the 20 somethings. Everyone's going to have their cross to bear, right? For some people, they're going to seek validation. Maybe it's in their beauty, maybe because that's where they're feeling the most insecure. For me, I was very insecure in terms of where I stood as a professional. Well, I was never really affirmed in those areas. Most women are not affirmed in those areas, let alone Black people. Sorry, the hair situation. So yeah, I felt the need to try to be validated intellectually to prove something. I remember when I would get into debates with like my peers, and you could be at somebody's house for a cookout or something, and well, I'm still kind of like that. If you try to debate me on something, especially something I really know about, I'm like a dog with a bone. I don't hold any cut cards. I just keep pop, 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 popping you, right? So um I just felt at that time, I'm like, literally, I'm going to paint you in the corner. I was really insecure about that. And as I've gotten older, now I don't even feel the need to prove a whole lot of stuff. I'm like, look, I can tell you once and that's it. I've done it on my job. People have seen it. They were like, didn't you say that 3 months ago? I'm like, I sure did. One guy even recently started laughing because he's like, you've been saying this for months. I'm like, yeah, can't force a horse to drink water if I lead him to it. But all right. But these are just my mistakes that I made. Number one, getting back to it, I should have cultivated more female friendships. Two, I always felt like I had to prove something. And three, I was looking for other people to validate me intellectually, when in fact, I should have been working on affirming myself or surrounding myself with people who would, it's not their job to validate me, but do you understand what I mean? I should have probably shifted my focus. But that's it. And hopefully this was helpful to somebody. I know that some people are probably like, what is she talking about? But I just wanted to put that out there. Like coming up in my 20s and maybe even 30s, these are some of the things that I've dealt with. And it took me quite a bit of time to realize, like, what am I doing? I don't have to do these things. And these are the things that I can do better. All right. So look, I'm sitting over here in a lot of pain. I don't know what I did this morning, but my back is like, no, 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 no. This is a good time to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the like button, and let me know what your thoughts are. What are some things that you want me to talk about? I've gotten some feedback. I should probably work on some of these other talking topics. That's going to come. But if you have something that you think I've missed, if you want to just make a comment, this is a really good time to leave it right now. I would appreciate it. I actually do like to get back to people. Y'all going to stop talking about my hair. Look, I got a whole lot going on right now. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because I'm just rambling at this point.